Juneteenth to me means a day of celebration and liberation of the Black people, Black and Indigenous people here that were formerly enslaved here in the United States. To me, it just means being free-ish, because as we know, there are still a number of obstacles and hurdles that African Americans have to overcome. But for us, it is our day of independence. If you go into many African American homes, you will find that many of us do not celebrate the 4th of July, because for us, that is not our day of independence. It is Juneteenth. When the last enslaved people were notified that slaves were free in Texas. So yeah, that's what it means to me. It also means strength and faith and resilience. And it reminds me of the strength of our people to just overcome obstacles and hurdles that many have not had to face, especially in this country. So that's what Juneteenth means to me. I am quite embarrassed in a way to admit that I did not learn about Juneteenth until college. As we know, there is this great debate going on about what should be taught in schools. And when I was in school, of course, it was no different. Of course, during Black History Month, we would celebrate kind of the approved, African Americans during Black History Month. So, of course, you got the watered down version of Dr. King, the I Have a Dream message, and that's kind of where it stopped. You got the story of Rosa Parks, George Washington Carver, but it was very rare that you heard about the W.E.B. Du Bois or the Malcolm X's, the Black Panther Party. And when you did, those discussions were very negative, and they weren't always rooted. Well, they weren't rooted in truthfulness and honesty and, giving you the true history of what Black people and African American leaders have had to endure and overcome throughout the history of this country. So again, for me, it wasn't until college, and when I found out about it, I was just very taken aback by what I just learned, and from that moment forward, it's not like I didn't celebrate the 4th of July, but it did start this transition into, realizing, hey, Independence Day as we know it is not the real Independence Day for Black people. It really is Juneteenth. So yeah, that's when I learned about it. That's when I learned about the significance of it. It was a shock for me in some ways. But yeah, that's when I learned about it in college. This is a loaded question because in a lot of ways we are and we have moved in the right direction. But unfortunately, a lot of things have become illegal. Like, of course, slavery is illegal, redlining is illegal, segregation is illegal. But, the powers that be have found ways to still institute this institutionalized racism. And so there are many ways, a kind of in a backdoor way, we're still living with, a lot of things that are not equitable, that are not fair, and we still deal with a lot of inequality from our educational systems, from redlining, even though it's illegal, it's still going on, from voter suppression, from not having that access to wealth. We know that real estate, for example, is a huge driver of wealth in this country, but we recognize that, When you have a home in a neighborhood that is predominantly African American, and you have that same home in other neighborhoods that are not predominantly African Americans, there's a significant difference in the equity that you have in your home. Therefore, African Americans don't have the equity to pull out of their real estate to be able to start businesses or buy other homes or, invest in the stock market. So there's a blockage that's there. Has it gotten better? Of course. I have been afforded opportunities that my grandparents, my great-grandparents, and even my mother could only dream of. And so, though I acknowledge that I am very blessed, I'm very fortunate, I still have to deal with my fair share of racism, sexism, and there are a lot more obstacles that I have to overcome that my European counterparts don't have to deal with. So I think the key is to continue to have these conversations. I think our allies need to kind of step up and continue to educate themselves and their families and friends, and correct those around them that have these negative beliefs and stereotypes, preconceived notions about people of color, and why we're not in the positions that we're in, or that we should be in, why we don't have access to education or finances or whatever, and just educate people about some of the difficulties that African Americans have to deal with that other people in other communities have to deal with, not just Black people, but Black and brown as well. Although, it's a different situation for us. So I do think that the only way to overcome this is to change policy, to get educated. We know that we can't change hearts, but hopefully through education, we can help people see things through a different lens.